Hey folks, welcome to Fiddlehed Fiddle Lessons. I'm going to play an Irish reel called The Girl Who Broke My Heart. When I'm done, I'm going to show you how to do it. Here we go. Alright, now that you've heard it, let's learn how to do it. So if you've watched any Fiddlehed lessons before, you know what I'm going to say right now. I'm going to say, what am I going to say? I'm going to say, play the scale of the tune. So in this case, this tune actually I recommend practicing two scales. First one would be G major. Start with the upper octave. And then do F major, starting D low 2. You may need to stay on each scale by itself for a little while, and then when you feel like both are warmed up, simply alternate between the two scales. And you'll hear that in the tune. One of the great things about this practice of playing the scale of a tune before you do it is you start to hear the melodies and scales, how scales are beautiful, and then you also will start to pick out the scales within the tunes. So, and finally, it'll make the scales they'll make more sense why you have to do it. It's not just some drudgery that somebody has assigned you to do that you have to do that you really don't want to. It'll be interesting if you can see the connection. All right, so we're gonna just start with the first quarter of the A part to the tune. Broken down without any bowings. So, there it is. We start A3, and we're in G major, so A3, low 2, 1, D3, 2, open. I probably should say, in case you're seeing this on YouTube, that this is an intermediate tune. If you're a beginner, probably not the best lesson for you to take if you've only been playing a month or two, okay? Enough said, let's move on. So, one thing you can do to add expression to it is, once you get the basic piece, is to practice swinging it slightly, like long, short, long, short. You can do it slower. And then loop it. So on. Or just play it a few times. Let your hands really start to relax and feel like, I've got this. We've got this, guys. And they need a little bit more time. The brain constantly wants to rush forward, but the hands are like, please, I need another 10 reps. Please give it to me, brain. So it's a form of kindness to your hands to just say like, okay, I'm going to stay with this part a little bit. And it's also a way of making the rest of the tune easier for you. Okay, so cool. Practice that well because it's also the third quarter of the tune. But now, let's move on to the second quarter of the A part. So that's going to start, let me break it down, starting on A3. So this part of the tune is the part that's in the key of F, and you'll hear it more as we play it, but alright, so we're gonna go A3, open E, E low 1, and that low 1 is F, and then A3. This might be a good small loop to practice. And then you could do a bigger loop, we could do the whole bar. Alright, looping is such a powerful practice because you can do really tiny loops with like 2 notes or a whole quarter or a whole tune. So that's the second quarter of the tune. The third quarter you already know because it's the same as the first, but I'll review it for you. So for those of you who have learned the Georgia shuffle bowing, you may have noticed that that's what I'm using there. I'm not going to really teach it in this lesson because I want to move on to the rest of the lesson, but if you're interested in learning that bowing, I have a really good lesson for that you can check out that I will link below. Basically, the Georgia shuffle puts a strong down bow accent on beats 2 and 4. And I'm using this throughout the entire A part. So you Irish music purists might be frowning at that, but it's just a handy bowing that works. And take it all with a grain of salt. This is just a suggested way of doing it. This is not the right way to do it. It's just a good, I try to present tunes in a simple way to get you going so that you can find your own voice eventually, and you'll be able to interpret this in your own way based on things you've heard and listened to, other people you've played with, other people you've learned from. You'll eventually formulate your own way of doing this tune and find your own fiddle voice. So just take it with a grain of salt, but the things I suggest doing, I usually will do bowings when I encounter them somewhere like in a book or something, just with the same grain of salt. Like I'll see what I can learn from it, and then I'll do it, filter it into my own way of playing. Okay, so now we'll do the fourth quarter of the A part, and notice how it's pretty similar to the second quarter. Broken down. Okay, so the only difference is they both start with this, and then the second quarter ends like this, and then the fourth quarter ends like this. So I'll do the whole fourth quarter again. All right, so we have the entire A part. Let's now practice it slowly with a play-along track.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Cool, so if you found that play-along track to be useful, I have full-length play-along track at all different, at kind of progressively faster speeds on Fiddlehed. There's also what I call a low fiddle mix, so that when you play along, the fiddle's a little lower, so the recorded fiddle, so that you hear more yourself. It'll be more like you're playing with a guitar. I also have extensive play-along tracks for each part of the tune. So check it out, and thanks for your support. Okay, so let's pause right now before we do the B part, and I want to briefly talk about how we practice. And one concept that I teach people is 3 phases of learning a tune. The first phase is just to be able to play the notes, make it all the way through, probably by memory if possible, but just, the bare minimum, but being able to basically do it. The second level is being able to play it with good sound, which encompasses a lot of things, like your tone, your timing, the flow, so how well the parts just flow together, and so you could work on this. Basically, when you learn the tune, that you finish the first phase, then your work is not done. You can kind of be a beginner again. Go through the tune, each little part, and make that part sound better. And you can do this forever. And maybe you'll get bored of a tune. You need to set it aside for a while and then come back and review it, and then do this phase 2 process, really making it sound better. You can do it. You can make it sound like 10% better if you really try. The third phase is adding expression of some kind. It could be variation, it could be volume and feeling, and I'm going to create a variation lesson on this song that will be up later on. It's not made yet, but that'll give you some ideas on how you can be more expressive with the tune. Okay, so cool. Thanks for listening to that little bit. 3 phases of learning a tune. You can do it with any tune you've learned. Okay, so now let's do the first quarter of the B part to the song. Okay, breaking it down without bowings. Okay, so does anybody know what that is? For those of you keeping score at home, what scale or whatever is that? It's a G major triad. Straight up and down, okay? The next, starting D3, A1, A3, E low 2. The next bar is this. Does anybody know what that is? That's an F major triad. So we start D low 2, which is F. So knowing a little bit about theory like that is not totally necessary to know these tunes. Probably not necessary at all. But I think it's kind of fun and interesting. And like I said earlier with the scales, if you can kind of make these connections, it makes practicing the technique in the scales a lot more interesting and fun. And I think you'll start to hear scales as music. So anyhow, let's do that again. And for this, I'm starting up bow and then pretty much separate bows for most of it. Slur 2, so we start on up bow again. All right, and I'm gonna use that bowing a little bit more. So anyway, that's the first quarter of the A part. It will also be the third quarter, so I recommend you really practice that well before moving on. But anyway, let's keep going, and I'll show you the second quarter of the B part. Broken down without any bowings. So it's going to start like the first quarter with. Then instead of going down to D3, it's going to go back up to A3. And then we're going to do this phrase starting A low 2, A low 2 1, low 2 3, D2 open. And so the last 4 notes are a good little exercise. Let's pause and make up an exercise from the tune. So we have A low 2, open A, D2, regular 2, and open. That's tricky, especially if you're new to low second. So you can make up a little exercise and then just start to fiddle with it. Maybe after going down, go back up. Add a bowing, slur 4. Here's a good one. Instead of starting A low 2, do the same thing starting D low 2. Or E low 2. Does that make sense? We just moved the same thing to a different string. Same little pattern. Now go back to the original. Now we've gone on this little practice journey with this little 4-note phrase. Let's do the whole second quarter again. On that last bar that I did, the 4th bar of the B part, I used Georgia Shuffle again. And then we'll move into the 3rd quarter of the B part, which is the same as the first. I'll review it for you. Okay, and now let's do the 4th quarter of the B part. And broken down. Okay, so starts with D3, A1, 3, low 2, A, D3, low 2. And then here I'm using Georgia Shuffle again. Alright, so you now have the entire B part. The last thing I want to talk about the song is endings. So if we look, let's go back to the A part. The first time we end, we do this. And then the second time we end, we're going to use an ending that leads us to the B part. It's very subtly different. Instead of, which goes back to the A part, the A3, A low 2, we're going to do open 2. That's open 2 on D, which leads to the B part. Now, if you mess up those endings, it's not a big deal. Nobody's going to notice. Nobody's going to point a finger at you. It'll be fine. But these pickup notes and endings are designed for maximum flow. So it's not something I made up. It's just that's how they evolve. We have the little pickup notes because they kind of connect. They connect things well and make for a smooth sound. So, and then when we do the endings on the B part, they're reversed because the first time we end the B part, we're gonna do an ending that leads us back to the B part. And then the second time through the B part, we're doing an ending that leads us to the A part. So let me do that again. All right, so hopefully what I'm about to say won't be confusing, but the first ending of the A part is the second ending of the B part. The second ending of the A part is the first ending of the B part. So go look at the sheet music or the tabs and it'll make more sense. I've color-coded tabs for this sheet music on Fiddlehed. All right, so if you like this lesson, please hit the like button and please hit the subscribe button. if you subscribe, you really support these lessons by just doing that simple thing. And if you want to go further, then check out the site where I've got play along tracks, sheet music, color-coded tabs, and sometimes even extra supplemental videos for the tunes. And thank you for your support. All right, well, thanks for watching. Really appreciate all the kind comments, all the good questions. I have a lesson in the works for variation ideas for this tune, expression ideas, so stay tuned for that. And I also have a lot more lessons on Irish fiddling on the Fiddlehed website. Okay, take care, and we'll see you soon.
Go to fiddlehed.com for a progressive, step-by-step course outline, color-coded tabs, play-along tracks, sheet music, and much more. Thanks for watching the video. Excellent! And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks.